Welcome to this video, which is all about art hexies. In this video I'm going to show you all of the art hexies that I've been really busy making and tell you all about what an art hexie is, because it's a really fun community project that we can all get involved in. So I really hope that you will enjoy watching this video and join me in making some art hexies. So the idea for art hexies came from Teresa, who is Made by Manatee on Instagram, and she is a fantastic creator and pattern designer, and also Daniel, who is DanJack on Instagram. So Teresa came up with the idea for creating little works of art on a 1-inch hexagon, and Daniel suggested to do a swap. So they're both in Germany and they're going to host a swap of the art hexies in Germany, and Daniel asked me would I like to join in and host the swap for art hexies in the UK, and I was super excited about that and immediately on board. And it just coincided with a lovely lady on Instagram sent me these vintage embroidery transfers, and I just thought that they would be perfect to use for my art hexies. So thank you very much to that lovely person, she knows who she is, and yeah, I just thought they were perfect for my art hexies. If you look at the hashtag art hexie on Instagram, there are so many different styles that you can create. You don't have to do embroidery like I'm doing. That's just the natural thing for me, as I love embroidery. But that you could do applique, you could do regular piecing. You can really let your imagination run wild and create anything that you would like on your 1-inch hexagon. Now, I'm using Hexiform, which adds stability, and it is a fabric, so you can stitch right into it. But later in the video, I'll show you how I made one without Hexiform, so that you can do it too if you don't have access to Hexiform. Now, at the moment, the swap is within the UK and within Germany, but please still join in, even if you're in a different country, because you never know. When the word spreads further about art hexies, somebody maybe in the US or Australia might offer to host a swap there, and wouldn't it be great if art hexies spread all around the world? I really think they're a great way to spread a positive, peaceful, joyful message amongst the stitching community. A little tiny gift of a little piece of art on a 1-inch hexagon, which I just think is such a joyful thing to join in with. So to create the embroidery, I'm using just a combination of really simple stitches. So lots of straight stitches and seed stitches to create the texture of the woods that the little cottage is in. And I used backstitch to outline the cottage. And then to add some finishing touches and some little flowers, I'm going to just use some simple French knots in an array of colours just to add that detail. This video has very kindly been sponsored by Serious Readers, and Serious Readers have been supporting this channel for a really long time. So I'd just like to say a massive thank you to them, and also to tell you about their incredible Serious Lights range and a brilliant offer that I have for you. So in the studio, I have the high definition tabletop cordless light, and what's fantastic about this is you can charge it up and the battery life lasts for 7 hours, and you can pick it up and move it to wherever you need it to be. And this portability is fantastic for me in this slightly larger room, because I can just take it to whichever table I'm working on. And as you can see, it really illuminates the workspace so clearly because it uses something called daylight wavelength technology. And what that does is replicate the daylight spectrum as closely as technically possible. It creates this really natural feeling light, which is so relaxing on the eyes. And when I filmed this, it was about 5 o'clock in the evening, and our days are getting shorter now, our nights are getting longer. It was a grey and dreary day. So having the light concentrated on exactly where I was working just made it such a much more enjoyable process and really helps to relieve any eye strain and just make stitching more relaxing. If you'd like to find out more about the incredible Serious Lights range, I will leave a link in the description box below. And if you were to purchase one, do use my offer code, which is Emma24, and that will give you £100 off a high definition light and also free UK delivery. So thank you so much to Serious Readers for sponsoring today's video. So back to the art Hexies, and I'm just using the Hexie form again to make the back of my art Hexie. So for each one you need a front and a back, and your hexagon needs to measure 1 inch along each side. That's a 1 inch hexagon. That's how we measure them in EPP. It's by the length of each side. Now, if you're not sure what Hexie form is, it's used instead of paper, and it is left in because it's essentially a fabric. And it's made by Ashmead Designs. So if you want to use that and you're in the UK, it's readily available. You can purchase it from Ashmead Designs website. But later in the video, I'll show you how to make one without paper, and that's for anyone who can't get hold of Hexie form or doesn't want to use it. So you can still join in. Now on the back, you need to put art Hexie, your name or your Instagram name, the date that you made it, and also a number. So I'm putting number 1 on this one because it's my first art Hexie, but I made a series of 7 in total. And that's because the idea is that it's like collecting trading cards, and that there's a limited number of them or a series, and it's just nice to have them numbered so you know how many you've made and how many of yours are out there in the world, because they're going to get swapped. So I think it's just a really nice way of creating a series. Now for this first one, I wrote it with a heat erasable pen and then I embroidered over it. Now it took me a really long time to do this because it's quite detailed. So for the following ones, I just wrote it with a fine tipped Sharpie, and it was still really neat. And so if you don't want to embroider your words on the back, then you can absolutely just write it on. So once you've created the front and the back, it's time to join them together, and I'm doing that by putting them wrong sides facing each other and stitching all the way around the edge just with the simple whip stitch. And once I get to just two sides left to do, I'm going to put some stuffing in there, some polyfill stuffing, just to make it a little bit puffy, and yeah, I think it adds a nice texture to it. Then once you've stitched the final two sides, just bury the thread tail, and that's it. Your art hexie is complete. This was honestly so much fun. It's just so nice to make something so joyful. It's just, yeah, there's something about tiny stitching on hexagons that is just so much fun. So I couldn't help myself, and this was the next one that I made with a little bird design. Actually, this one is number 3. I made a lily of the valley flower for number 2, and I'll show you that a little bit later on. The fabric I'm using is hand dyed from a lovely lady called Vicky, and I will leave a link to her below. She's called A Beautiful Stitch, and she sent me some lovely hand dyed linens, and they're just so nice to stitch on, and they came in all these lovely pastel colours, so they were just perfect for this. So for my next art hexie, I'm doing something a little bit different this time. Now, I got given these very tiny heart-shaped buttons by my lovely friend Wendy, and she'd used them in something she made. She'd made a scene of the yellow brick road and the Emerald City and used these teeny tiny buttons as flowers in the field, and I just loved it when I saw it, and she very kindly gave me these buttons, so I want to do the same and use them as flowers. So now I'm making another art hexie, but this time without the hexie form in it. Now the way I'm doing it is I'm drawing around a larger hexagon, so it gives me the seam allowance, and then I'm going to draw the 1-inch hexagon inside, so I know exactly where I need to position the artwork that's going to go in the centre of the hexagon. I know where my boundaries are, so I can get it to be the right size. So for this one, I'm just drawing the outline of a very simple cottage, a thatched cottage, and I just thought it would look lovely on the pink fabric. And I'm just embroidering straight onto the linen. I don't have any stabilizer on the back, and I'm not actually using a hoop. If you prefer those things, you can definitely do that. You can center your design in your fabric so you can fit it into a hoop and stitch it that way. And of course I had to add the tiny buttons as details, again as flowers. So what I'm doing now is glue basting the fabric that I've just embroidered around a paper hexagon. Then I'm going to press it with an iron. That will remove my heat erasable pen marks, but then it will also create creases to really help the hexagon keep its shape when I remove the paper. So the whole point of Art Hexies is to do a swap. So I really hope that you're keen to join in and that you'll give it a go. Now at the moment, if you live in Germany, you can send your Art Hexies to Daniel and he would like them in by the 16th of November. If you live in the UK, you can send your Art Hexies to me. You just need to make sure you send in a stamped, addressed, self-addressed envelope as well, so that when I do the swap, I can send it straight back to you in the envelope you provided. So it must be self-addressed and it must have a stamp on it, and that's the same for the German ones too. If you're in another country though, still make them join in and put them on Instagram and use the hashtag ArtHexies, and then we can all see what you've made. And you never know, someone else might say, I'll be the person to collect them for America, or I'll be the person to collect them for Australia. So make them anyway and join in. And if enough people are making them and having fun, then perhaps it will spread further around the world, which I think would be just brilliant. So if you want to join in the UK, then what you need to do is make sure you're signed up to my newsletter, because I will put some details in a newsletter really, really soon. And
the address to send them to will be in that newsletter as well. And I'm doing it like that just to make it a little bit safer for myself, and a bit more secure. So you definitely need to be signed up to my newsletter, and then all the details will be sent out there. But like I said, it's a stamped self-addressed envelope, and you'll need to do it by the 16th of November here as well. And let's see if we can really spread some joy between ourselves and some positivity and, yeah, messages of hope and peace maybe, and spread that around the world. Isn't that, a good positive thing to do? So thank you so much. I am really excited, and I hope I get some art hexies in the post. So I will share them with you when I do, of course, and let's see how many people want to join in. So thank you so much, and I'll see you again really soon with something else. Take care. Bye bye.